You're listening to the LA Football Podcast.
And welcome back, Los Angeles, to the LA Football Show, live from Indy at the NFL Combine. Thank you all for tuning in. This is your USC Trojans segment if you are on podcast radio. Last segment of our 2-hour time slot here on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. I'm Ryan Dyrud, joined, as I have been all week, by the great Skinny T, Ryan Anderson, RL Anderson, LAFB. What's up, my brother? How we doing?
Hanging in there. Rainy day in Indy. It was just dumping. It might snow later on tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this. When we left Southern California, it was cold and there was some snow there. And then we come here. It was actually 70 degrees. I think we mentioned that earlier. But, then it dropped down and now it's raining. And it's miserable.
You say we're not used to this, but this is what LA's been like for the last week. So we brought it with us.
And I don't like it.
Yeah, feel right at home, I guess, with this rainy, dreary weather. It definitely, after a busy day yesterday, a long night, an early morning, it definitely makes you want to just like cuddle up with some sweats and lay in bed all day.
Absolutely.
But there's work to be done. There's football to be covered. There's
no rest.
Combine to be talked about. No rest for the weary here at LAFB. But, as far as USC is concerned, 5 players here at the Combine, right? We got Jordan Addison, who projected first-round pick. Travis Dye, who is obviously still battling an injury, but he'll be here answering questions. Mekhi Blackmon, great corner. Tuipulotu, also could be a first-round, second-round pick maybe. But phenomenal defensive lineman. And then lastly, Andrew Voorhees, who I didn't even realize this, but you told me, made Bruce Feldman's freak list.
Yeah, he is a bench machine. Apparently, he can do 225 for 40 reps, which gets him close to the record, which is 11 more. So maybe he'll try to bang out a few more, and get a little closer to that.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
How big is? Do you know his height, weight?
I probably should know it offhand since we're at the Combine. That's what they're doing. But I don't think they've measured yet. But he's got to be somewhere around 6'6", 300. Wow. And just a big guy. Seeing him on the field at the Collie, seeing him at practice, I would walk by and I'm like, and this is a kid technically, 21 years old. And
well, it's funny. We're about the same height, 5'7", 5'8", somewhere around there. Yeah. And like some of the players you come up to, and they're just like normal kind of looking dudes. But then you realize just how big some of these guys are when you're standing next to 6'6", 6'8", something like that. Yeah.
It's funny, being out and about around town. I know on radio we talked about it last segment, but for podcast sake, if USC fans probably didn't listen to our UCLA podcast, so we'll regurgitate a little bit of this. But last night went to the famous St. Elmo Steakhouse. Phenomenal experience. We won't rehash too much of it, but had a lot of fun, good food, good service, good ambiance. But as I've mentioned, it's just so cool at how many of just the coaches, the GMs, the agents, and the players are all out and about at night. Like you would think, even with players, for instance, like if you don't know or you're not here, you kind of think, all right, they're doing either their workouts, their interviews, and they're like in bed early to get prepped. And I'm not saying they're out like partying, but a lot of their meetings are happening at night at these restaurants, at these bars. Like they're meeting with teams. Like when you say like, have you met with the Chargers yet? They might be meeting at St. Elmo's tonight. That might be their meeting.
Yeah. It's always cool to keep your eyes open. And it's one of those things that actually happens in LA a lot in certain neighborhoods where famous people kind of hang out, is everybody's kind of clocking everybody, making eye contact. Is that somebody I know? That looks like this person. And they're like, oh, no, never mind. He's just some writer.
Just some has-been.
Yeah.
What's funny to think about, and I've just thought about this right now, is before the age of NIL in college sports, which is very new. What are we, in year 2 of it? Yeah. Before that, a player going to dinner with a coach and getting paid for was illegal. And so the Combine would have been theoretically, I'm sure it happened a lot, but theoretically based on the rules, the Combine could potentially have been these college athletes' first time getting wined and dined.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I don't know how much by the book that actually is out there. There's plenty of people that got caught doing the wrong thing in that. area. But thinking about that, I was at the interviews for wide receivers, quarterbacks today. Zay Flowers was out there, and he had a very nice chain on. So it looked like expensive.
Yeah. Well, I've always obviously. And again, now with NIL, it doesn't really matter anyway. But even before that, I was always curious because technically, yes, the college football season obviously has been over for quite some time. But technically, a lot of those kids are still in school. Like they might graduate.
Yeah.
A lot of them just stop. So that's very. But obviously there was no violations. But I wonder what like the between the lines rules is of that. If they could start taking things because the season's over.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I suppose if they're no longer playing football, they can take whatever they want, I guess. Yeah.
I'll always remember, random tangent here. Went to Long Beach State. Go Beach, baby. And I remember seeing this, and it's the most innocent thing, but it's like in my head, I'm like, oh man, is our school going to get in trouble? There was one of our college basketball, and one of the coaches, not the head coach, but one of the coaches, I saw there was an In-N-Out right by our campus that we would always go to. So I'm at In-N-Out. I see him with a potential recruit buying In-N-Out. So simple, just buying a kid a burger to chat. But in my head, I'm like, technically this is illegal. This is really weird, but technically this is illegal.
That is so weird that you can't just buy a hamburger, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, now you can. Now it doesn't matter. So, but anyway, so let's start with Jordan Addison because we were there this morning, I guess it was still this morning.
Yep.
Addison answering questions. What was your thoughts of the young man? Because I know I have met him before. Met him at USC Media Day. Obviously, was at every Trojan game in the press conferences and whatnot. But I believe that was your first time. So what was your impression? Obviously, it's a bunch of people around him, but just your impression of how he did.
He's a pro, man. He's thinking ahead, and he actually said during that interview that he was interested in coming to LA so that he can be in front of cameras and under the bright lights more often. Mm-hmm. And he said that he grew so much in that area. So yeah, it was he gets to the point.
He's very straightforward.
He's very straightforward. He's also very thoughtful too in his responses, even though they're short. He makes sure he's listening to the person. He's looking at everybody in the eye. Super respectful of everybody's time and answers just really thoughtfully.
It's so funny in today's day and age. It's like if a player or coach or anyone for that matter doesn't have like a long, drawn out Sean McVay style, Brandon Staley style explanatory answer, they're almost like people consider them rude or like jaded or something. And not everyone's a talker. And you can tell Jordan he's very business. He said at the USC Media Day he chose SC because A, he wants to win, but B, which is probably was more important at the time, it's his best shot to get to the NFL. And that's why he came to LA. That's why he came to USC. And now obviously he's here and he's going to be drafted early.
Well, and it was interesting. He was asked about the Pitt game because he obviously used to play there. He was asked a bunch of questions about Kenny Pickett. But I've always wondered, once you take the college helmet off, do the rivalries still exist in people's minds? And we've talked to guys that absolutely, they will not. Our contributor and Salute to Troy podcaster, he does not like
Coach Rowe.
Yeah, he was making all sorts of comments about UCLA fans when we were out there at the tailgate. But same with Addison as well. He was excited. He basically called it a double win for him because Pitt won and they beat UCLA. So
this is true. Yeah. This is true. A bad day for part of LA, but I guess a good day for some that you said to lose. But yeah, it's I think with college rivalries, we can go down this rabbit hole real quick. Why not? Yeah. It's a lot of the players I feel like aren't as passionate about it simply because of the transfer portal. And I'm not saying anything about the transfer portal. I like the transfer portal. I think it's good overall. But if you're a player that's transferred 3 times, like you're not going to have that deep-seated hatred for that other school. But if you're like DTR, who played 5 years at UCLA, you can tell he hates USC because he was there long enough to really get the history. Caleb Williams, in his first year, even said in his press conference, was like, when leading up to the UCLA game, basically he said, he's like, I understand the history here. I don't really feel anything yet, though, because I've never played these guys. Where I think now, even it's only been 1 year, one game, I think going in the next year, he'll have that passion and that hatred for UCLA. And certainly after that game, playing them twice, I think it'll be a deep-seated thing. But it takes at least twice, I feel like, to really
that's
feel
what
that.
Cements it. It's interesting because, Addison might be catching passes from DTR tomorrow at
Love it.
and Jake Bobo will be not far away because they do it alphabetically, so it's going to be Addison is like WR1 and then he's WR5 or something like that. So they're going to be rubbing shoulders, which will be kind of cool to see.
That's very and Bobo and Addison will be interesting because both of them only 1 year at their respective schools. And then DTR obviously is the 5-year vet who definitely has a heated rival. So wouldn't it be great if DTR puts a little more sauce or maybe a little out of reach to Addison every time he gets the ball?
Interesting, yeah,
a little gamesmanship.
Yeah,
and it would be even better if they end up getting drafted by the same team.
Yeah.
I've talked to Frosty about that actually, who obviously legendary Trojan, won national championships, and I'm like, so what's it like when you get to the NFL and you have teammates from like your hated college rival? And he's basically said, he's like, obviously you're teammates now, but there's always like jabs and jokes, and there's still that like rivalry. It's not like a hatred anymore because now you're like brother, but it's like a brotherly rivalry. So it definitely still exists.
Yeah,
just depends on if guys are transferring every year or not.
Yeah. Well, it'll always exist, that rivalry, for sure.
So speaking of Addison though, has not spoken to the Chargers, right? Per you.
Yeah. I asked that question, and it's funny. It's actually more telling that a team hasn't talked to somebody than if a team has talked to somebody, because a lot of teams have tons of people out here, so they're talking to as many people as they can squeeze in, anybody that they're interested in. But if there's been no contact and no communication from the team, that's pretty telling about probably where the Chargers' heads are in terms of their first round pick.
Yeah, which in reality, the Chargers, interestingly enough, seem to draft guys that they haven't talked to. So maybe it's telling it that way. Maybe it's saying like, oh, it's a good thing. It doesn't make any sense, but they seem to draft who they don't talk to. So I mean, that's
there you go. Yeah.
And there's still 3 days here or 2 days left here, so it could still happen. But at this point, no contact. We didn't ask the Rams just because he won't be available at 36. So
I highly doubt that. There's something wrong if that happens.
Yeah, that would be interesting if they spoke to him or if he lasts that long. So, but should have a good showing tomorrow. Excited to see him out there. How did he look to you? Because I had to step away for a call. Size-wise, I know they are wearing stuff that isn't as telling as it will be tomorrow. But how do you look size-wise?
Well, I would compare him to Zay Flowers, who I saw earlier in the day. He looks much smaller. I think Addison looks bigger playing as well than he did on the stage. Yeah, he's definitely not a big guy.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
And that's I remember talking about that to people that haven't seen him, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. The dude can play. The dude can run routes. The dude can catch. But yeah, he's not like a big-bodied receiver by any means. I mean,
there's tons of those guys in the league now.
Yeah. Look at Devonta Smith. First round pick, Eagles.
Tutu Atwell, the famous Tutu
the
Atwell.
The great
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell. He is bigger than Tutu Atwell. I will say that.
Yeah, definitely.
Jordan Addison bigger than. I'm not saying that. He's bigger than Tutu Atwell.
No. Much more prototypical size.
Yes.
Well, I guess a new prototype anyway.
Yeah, he's no DK Metcalf.
No.
But he's no Tutu Atwell.
Absolutely.
He's a nice happy medium.
Yeah.
So yeah, excited to see him. Trojan fans, let us know how you're feeling about Addison. Why don't you text us? You can text Trojans to 31032 and let us know where you think Addison will go. If you're in LA, if you'd like to see him stay in LA, or if he'll go elsewhere. So let's move on to Tuipulotu. Interesting thing with him is he was kind of a tweener anyway. Obviously phenomenal in college, an unbelievable year last year. Like he basically was the USC Trojans defense.
Huge production, right?
Yeah, huge
13
production.
13 and a half sacks?
13 and a half sacks, 22 tackles for loss.
Wow.
I mean, the dude was special. But even on the Trojans defense, he was like kind of that tweener, 5 tech in between 3 tech. And so coming to the NFL, it's like, okay, you got to kind of decide, like, are you going to be an interior guy or are you going to be edge? And obviously that can look a little different based on scheme. But apparently, don't know if it was his call, an agent's call, or what, but he looked like he shed weight, which would signal that he's kind of going into the draft as an edge. Your thoughts on that? I'll say it as you're thinking, because he went down to 266 is what he weighed in at, which was
shocking to everybody.
Yeah.
Especially if the last time you looked at his weight was on the USC website, because he was listed at 290.
Yeah, which he was never 290, but that's how he was listed.
Yeah. It's always so funny to me that those things are inflated. And
my high school roster, I was slated as 5'10", 185.
Nice.
Yeah, I was 5'6", 150 max. So anyway.
Yeah. Edge is you're just going to get more attention as an edge player than you are, and you're going to end up getting more money too.
Yeah.
If you're productive. So that's an interesting side of that. But I think versatility is becoming much more and more important, and guys are getting smaller all over the place, and we're seeing, like we were saying with Addison, we're seeing non-prototypical size is still able to function in the NFL.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like my only concern with him moving to edge, and obviously they have a reason for it and everything you just said, but he's not like a speed guy. And we saw edges run 40s, right? And Tuli did not run probably smartly. And you're seeing guys out there running 4.4s, and that's not Tuli. He's a very smart, technical defensive lineman, but he's not just a speed burst around the corner guy, which you kind of have to be as an edge.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of technique, that are different when you're rushing the passer closer at that 5 technique than when you're going out to the edge. It's a whole different animal, and there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And, we've seen that the guys that are good at it, that have mastered the technique, and they can, bull rush a guy or, get around with their speed or quickness. So if he doesn't have all those tools in the bag, at best, I guess he's playing on third downs, or I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't even be shocked if after getting drafted, the team decides, let's put some weight back on you and we'll move you inside a little more. We'll see how it plays out. I would love it. Obviously, this is an LA show, so we can be biased toward it. I would love to see him end up with the Rams and get a chance to play with Eric Henderson, who's one of the best defensive line coaches in the game. Obviously, that means you get to play alongside Aaron Donald, which helps everybody out. But I think, too, the Rams have, in recent years, they've swung at some defensive linemen, and outside of Greg Gaines, haven't really hit. Love the idea of some of the guys they've gotten, but they just haven't been able to either get on the field because of the talent that was already there, or just haven't elevated themselves to what the hope was when they were drafted. So
and Greg Gaines and A'Shawn Robinson, they're both free agents, so the Rams probably be looking to bolster that. Where do you think he's drafted?
I could see him be a late first, just based on that unbelievable production he had. Led the nation for most of the year in sacks. But it's probably more likely in that second round. So he could be there at 36 for the Rams to take. We talked earlier on radio and obviously in our Rams segment about how edge is definitely a need for the Rams. So now do they believe he's a true edge, or do they believe they want to move him inside?
Yeah. They need somebody that can be on the field for a lot of the time, though. So, yeah.
It would be really, really fun to watch him with Aaron Donald and see what they can do. He obviously wouldn't be next to him because he's definitely not a nose tackle. He's not a Greg Gaines.
Nope.
But he can certainly play that 3 on the 3-4 and be in that kind of Aaron Donald type role size-wise, right? No one's ever going to be Aaron Donald, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, he feels very secure about where he is in teams' minds, it seems like, because he didn't do any of the recorded drills at all. He did some of the moving around, I think it's called a W drill or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, videos are online if you want to check it out, but he feels pretty good, I guess, what he's showing on tape, and obviously with that kind of production. Look at that, guys, is what he's saying.
Well, yeah, and I think it was smart, in my opinion, of him not to do the drills, because if he is officially moving positions, obviously he dropped weight, you're testing with guys that are played those positions, and testing, if you haven't studied for the test, is difficult, and he would look poor against those guys, whereas if he ran with tackles, he'd probably look really good. So I think it was smart that if he's going to go as an edge, Don't do the drills. Just let your tape do the talking, because you put, young man, a lot of good tape out there last year. And as painful as it will be for scouts to watch USC's defense on film, at least there's the bright spot of Tuli. And Mekhi Blackmon also had a fine season, who was at the combine, so I don't want to take any disrespect from him. But Tuli certainly was the brightest star on that defense.
Yeah, I think Blackmon is probably running through the drills right now as we speak. Over there in Lucas Oil.
Right behind us, DBs in the field. Last little story, and then we're out of time, of course, about Tuli. And that was the funniest thing. I told guys this yesterday, and everyone got a kick out of it. At USC Pro Day, everyone, we're in all the players, they have the table set up. Tuli comes in, he's watching the Dodger game on his phone. Very respectful, so it was not like a rude thing at all. But literally, it's like, you guys mind if I just keep watching the Dodger game while you ask me questions? So he's literally watching the game on his phone, answering reporters' questions. I thought it was fantastic. Great kid. Hope he enjoys his time here. Hope we see him stay in LA. I'd love the Rams take him, but his dreams are going to come true very soon, along with the rest of the USC Trojans. That's all the time we got. That's Skinny T. I'm Ryan Dyrud. Everyone have a blessed weekend. Enjoy the rest of our combine coverage all weekend, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
You're listening to the LA Football Podcast.